Was Santa Claus born out of psychedelic folklore? When pondering the prevalence of Santa Claus in Western culture, we see kitschy holiday movies, neon-lit figures in front yards, and patterned, white-bearded wrapping paper. Santa has been a widely accepted symbol of Christmas cheer for centuries. But where did the myth begin? If you've read about the origins of Santa Claus, you've most likely stumbled upon the link to the 3rd century monk named St. Nicholas. But could the Santa Claus folklore have been born out of something a bit trippier? As historians and scholars investigated the origins more closely, an alternative narrative emerged, giving a surprisingly legitimate psychedelic slant to a traditional legend. If you're new here, we're Transparency, powered by the Bunk Police. Saving lives and preventing overdose through harm reduction is our mission. We've been advocating for, innovating, and educating the public on drug test kits over the last 13 years. If you're interested in harm reduction, drug education, and uncovering the truth, hit subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and drop us a like or comment. This alternative history begins with the indigenous Sami people, who resided in Lapland, a wintry forest-filled region in northern Finland. Near the winter solstice, the shaman conducted healing rituals, which featured Amanita Muscaria, a red and white toadstool mushroom commonly depicted in fairy tale imagery. The shamans would ingest this highly hallucinogenic mushroom, experience the Amanita spiritual journey, and share the wisdom and knowledge learned with the rest of the group. So, how does this relate to Santa Claus? As scholars and mycologists studied the accounts of these rituals, they began to notice some uncanny similarities between the characteristics of these practices and the modern-day Santa Claus legend. These similarities begin at the source. To find these mushrooms, the shaman would search underneath pine trees where they were commonly found growing. Some have related this to how red and white presents are now placed underneath pine trees in modern Christmas tradition. Because the Amanita was quite toxic, the shaman would do one of two things before consuming: dry the mushrooms out, which they often did by laying them out on pine trees or by placing them in stocks over a fire, which some have compared to the imagery of stockings over a fireplace. Alternatively, because reindeer in this region often sat out and consumed the Amanita mushrooms, shamans would instead drink the urine of the reindeer, which would be less toxic, but just as psychoactive. The Amanita's experience has been said to induce the feeling of flying, and some compare this to how flying reindeer supposedly take Santa around the world. The legend also states that during their spiritual journey, the shamans would morph into animals, ascending to the North Star in search of knowledge and wisdom to share with their community. Other accounts claim that those who consumed the Amanitas would begin to resemble one, which some have compared to the mushroom-like shape around Santa Claus is commonly depicted as, and the red and white outfit he wears. After the trip was over, the shamans would return home to their traditional yurts. However, due to the snow blocking the main entrance, they would often enter their yurt through the hole in the top, which many compared to Santa's descent through the chimney. Instead of physical gifts, the shaman would bring spiritual gifts to their community, in the form of wisdom and knowledge gained from their psychedelic experiences. Many writers who explore this topic do so lightheartedly, endorsing that legends, such as Santa Claus, are simply a strange blend of a number of different historical events and tall tales that have grown and transformed over time. Others lean into this alternative twist on Saint Nick, not just to play the psychonaut's advocate, but to relish in an underlying interpretation, ironically enough, one of the core intentions of the holiday season. Writer and mycologist Lawrence Miller reflects on these comparisons, stating, "The shaman comes as a healer or to give advice. We should think in terms of regarding Christmas not as a capitalistic holiday, but as a time to think more spiritually about life. What if this psychedelic history could inspire a renewed holiday outlook, not one of buying material items, but as a time for spiritual growth?"